You know this feeling when something always worked and just stops. This key opened every door that mattered to you. The first promotion, the first job, the first big deal, the first diploma, the house you said you would never afford. But now it doesn't fit anymore. And here is what nobody is telling you. The longer you keep forcing this key into the lock it wasn't made for, the more damage you do. Not to the lock, to yourself. I'm going to ask you to do something that may scare you. It should. Because if you actually do it this week, you won't be able to go back to pretending. So stay. This episode is not for the person who is failing. That is a different conversation. This is for the person who built the life, hit the number, got the title. The people around you think you made it. But there is a underneath everything. At 2 a.m., you're thinking, is that it? No, you are not broken. No, you are not ungrateful. You are outgrowing the container you built for yourself. And this is the most dangerous space for the successful person. When you know that you have outgrown your old version, when you know that there is more for you, and you kind of don't know what it's next. You know there is more and you want it and you feel lost. Sometimes you may even feel ungrateful because of that. I know that. I felt that so many times. I have outgrown my old version, and the things that pushed to get into the next level that always were working, they don't work anymore. And it feels like being trapped. Feels like being stuck with the thought that what else is possible. Let's diagnose what's actually happening. And I'm going to give you a science first, then the soul of it, the spirit, and of course the strategy, because you are your strategy. So you're going to see how all this tied together. And at the end, one experiment that makes it real. Because I don't want you only to know an information like you read a book. I want you to feel it with your emotions and take it into the next level. To get involved in action, because this is where the wisdom is being born. Not like we know a lot of things. You know that moving more gives you a healthy life, like not smoking, no drinking, and so on. It's like we know that consciously, but unconsciously, we're still not always doing this. So I want you to get involved, and I want you to take this into the next level. I'm Wioletta. I'm the business doctor, and today's diagnosis is personal. I'm also going to share with you some of my stories from my experience. Before we go in, I need to tell you something. There is a number I'm going to share in a minute. A Harvard researcher spent decades studying how adults actually develop, not children, adults. I also study human adults development. So I also have insights in that area and can confirm many of them with my clients and with my innovation work. Smart, successful, powerful adults, CEOs, founders, senior leaders. When you hear what the Harvard researcher found, you are going to think, I'm making it up. No, I'm not. So let's go. The operating system, the number that changes everything. Robert Kagan, Harvard development psychologist. He studied how the adult mind grows, not what you know how to think. The invisible operating system running behind every decision you make. He found 3 stages that matter. Stage 3, the socialized mind. Your identity, your values, your decision are shaped by what other people expect from you. Your bosses, your industry, your culture. You don't see it because you are in it. Like a fish doesn't see a water. It's in the water. 58% of adults are running this operating system. Those are not the junior employees. Those are the CEOs, founders, people making $1 million decisions on someone else's software. And I was also running that. One of the biggest dreams in my life was to get a great job, go to university, buy the house, have a family, and have a dog. I got all of that. I changed the countries even. And I even thought that it's impossible from the space where I was, because I was born in the communistic country. I was born in Poland. So something that was impossible for me at that time, I've achieved it. It became my new normal. But those all versions were what the society expected from me. He also called on the stage 4, the self-authoring mind. It's where you write your own rules. And this is where 35% of you get there, of humans get there. When we say, okay, now is the time to write my own rules. I want to live by my own way of doing, and I want to become who I want to be. That's also, I have done that when at my 40s, I decided to quit my 6 figures job in the bank, my dream job, and start my own company. And I can tell you, not only from this research, but from my own experience, the version of me who quit the job and the version that actually started to run the company in a different way, there are 2 completely different versions. Stage 5, where you can hold your entire identity as just one perspective. And when you look at your story, you have been telling yourself, and you can say, hey, that's a story, not a fact. There is a 1% of people who get there. That's whatever the story is there, you are able to tell yourself, it's the story. It's a story that I'm telling myself. And all this is based on your beliefs and the programming which happens before 7. So here is the question that should keep you up tonight. Which operating system are you running on? Because the whole point of an operating system is you can say it while you are inside it. Stay with me. This is going somewhere. The superstition trap. Why you are wearing lucky socks? Marshall Goldsmith. One of the most respected executive coaches alive, he didn't just talk about leaders. He surveyed 86,000 of leaders and people who work for them. And he found something he calls the superstition trap. Here is how it works. When you are successful, your brain does a very natural thing. It looks at everything you do and says, all of this is why I made it. The early mornings, the micromanagement, saying yes to everything or saying no to everything, never asking for help. And this is the line that changed how I work with my clients. Goldsmith says, one of my greatest challenges is helping leaders see they succeed because of some behaviors and in spite of others. Let me put in this way. Imagine a baseball player who wears the same pair of socks every game. His team wins. He thinks the socks. Next game, same socks. Win. Socks. Confirm. Therefore, he never washes them. He builds his whole game and pre-game ritual around the socks. His teammates think he's crazy, but he cannot take them off, because what if that's you with your calendar, with your control, with your I will do it myself. 86,000 people in Goldsmith study. 70% of direct reports said their leader got better. But 30%, nothing changed. Too busy wearing the socks. Now, what I'm about to tell you is going to sound academic. It's called identity foreclosure. Boring name. But when you hear what it actually means, you might realize you have been living inside it for 20, 30 years. And in other words, it's a cage you built yourself, the identity. And James Marcia, developmental psychologist, call it identity foreclosure. It means high commitment, low expectations. You decided who you are and you never question it. Like corporate warrior, a problem solver, the one that carries everything. Whatever the identity is, that's the label. So you decided who you are and you never question it. He studied this in teenagers originally, but here is what nobody say out loud. It hits successful adults harder. You committed early. I am the achiever. I am the fixer. I am the one who works harder than everyone else. And you know what? I have been there so much and so often. And that identity got rewarded. Promotion, money, respect, over and over. Therefore, why would you ever question it? It worked. Here is the sign you can describe your career in a perfect detail. Every role, every number, every milestone. And your CV? Perfect. Beautiful climbing, step by step. But you genuinely struggle to explain what actually fulfills you about the job, the promotion, what was there that made you to go to work in the first place. The cage is not your company. The cage is not your title. The cage is the version of yourselves you never stopped to question. And it gets worse because something called the sunk cost fallacy applied to identity. Yes, it's a sunk cost fallacy. Veronica Tate researched at Snow College. She says, humans want to be seen as consistent. So changing course feels like admitting your mistake. And we don't like to see the mistakes. We don't like to be seen as the people who made the mistakes. And we don't like to change our minds. We, don't like to change opinions and change your mind, change your life. You have invested 20 years in this version of yourself. And trust me, I have invested 30 years to build my super successful career in corporate world. As the innovator, I built innovation lab in internal consulting. I was working across teams. I was running a millions worth projects and I was working with the most senior people in the bank. I got my master degrees. I actually have a master's degrees in social sciences, human development, adults. I got my MBA in innovation and also few diplomas from the best universities like IMD, INSEAD, MIT. Yes, I've done that all. The reputation, the degrees, that version of myself. And also the relationship created in that version. And also the logo that was standing, the biggest and the best Swiss bank. Therefore, you keep going, not because it's working, because you have invested too much to stop. You invested your entire life to build that career. Her research shows people will actually change what they believe is right, alter their moral judgment, just so they don't have to change direction. That's not strategy, that's the hostage situation. And you are both the hostage and the capture. And that's the most challenging in all this situation. Okay, I just hit you with a lot. Operating system you cannot see. Lucky socks, identity cages, hostage situation. Here is the good news. Your brain is not stuck. It's actually doing something beautiful right now. But I need to explain what. The anxiety and the curiosity, those are the neighbors. when you are in this stuck place, the in-between, your brain conflict detect. It goes into overdrive. It's scanning, it's searching, it's saying something doesn't match. At the same time, your amygdala, the threat center, the one which is, protecting you, the bodyguard, is firing. Danger, go back to what you know. And this is the beautiful part. When your usual patterns are suspended, your brain becomes more plastic, more open, more capable of framing new connection. And Michael Merzenich, his work on the neuroplasticity is considered the Nobel level. Show that adult brains can reorganize. You have been told that, when you are the adult, your brain is not so good and you cannot do this and you cannot that. And that's also belief. That's a limiting belief that's stopping you from achieving what you really want. So new neurons generated throughout life, not just children, but adult plasticity needs different conditions: repetition, challenge, novelty, focus attention. And this is also why, I spent years in innovation. I have seen people coming up with a new idea and dragging them and pushing through it and also losing interest in them. But I've seen that the innovation is not a lab work. It's not a space which is dedicated only to the innovation team. It's everyone's job. The adults, the humans, we are excited about it. We love challenge. We love novelty, even though now we say we are so scared and there is too much of change and so on. We love it. We love the novelty. It creates dopamine. It's a focus attention. It's the flow. So here is the switch that matters. The anxiety and the curiosity, they activate similar brain regions. Isn't that interesting? The wiring is almost identical. Anxiety says something is wrong. Curiosity says something is possible. And that switch, there is this slight difference in the energy. And this slight difference, the anxiety and the curiosity, same as the nervousness and the excitement, they are wiring the same or very similar parts of the brain. But what is very interesting and powerful, that even the body acts similarly. So we can switch and change the questions from anxiety to curiosity. So I'm scared what comes next, or I'm curious what comes next. And the curiosity, it's such a huge potential for human development. It's not a personality trait. It's a skills. It's a skill set you can learn, you can train. Therefore, your brain is not your enemy right now. It's waiting for instruction. It just needs you to stop repeating the same patterns in the same environment with the same people, solving the same problems and expecting different results. So that key, it's not broken. It's finished. It did the job. The question is whether you are willing to set it down. The science says insight alone does not produce change. Of course it does not. You can understand everything I have said so far and still walk back to your desk on Monday and do the exact same thing and wonder why nothing changed. Because our lives optimize for who we have been, the identity we have built, like the cages around us, and not who we are becoming. Now, I need to go deeper than the brain, because this moment you are in, it has an innocent name. And Joseph Campbell, the man who studied every myth in human history, he described what happens to the person who reaches his threshold and says no. When I read it, it gave me a chills. You will see why in a minute. Stay. So the secret threshold, you are not lost. you are liminal. The word is liminal, from Latin, limen, meaning threshold. Not the room you left, not the room you are entering, the door frame, the space in between. Every wisdom tradition in human history has recognized this space, not as a comfortable, as secret. You are not lost, you are liminal. But staying in there requires courage, because everything in you, hear me here, your ego, your habits, your success, it's screaming, go back, go back. The hero who says, Campbell spent his life studying the hero's journey, the pattern that shows up in every culture, every century, every methodology. And one of the most powerful moments is not the battle, not the triumph, is the refusal of the call. Campbell writes, and listen to this language. Walled in boredom, hard work, or culture, the subject loses the power of significant affirmation action. So let me read this again for you. Walled in boredom, hard work, or culture, the subject loses the power of significant affirmative action. That's not a depression. That's not a burnout. That's what's happened when the call comes and you say no. Therefore, and this is the part that gave me chills, whatever house he builds, it will be a house of death. And this is not a metaphor about dying, a metaphor about building something with no life in it. A business with no soul, a career with no meaning, a life that looks perfect from outside and feels hollow from the inside. And the identity transplant. Carl Jung said, and I cannot agree more with that. I've been living in it. So yes, I've been in the threshold. And honestly, there were years where I wanted to come back into the past, into what I knew, into my patterns, into my old identity, the one built around that success. I know I felt it, and I'm feeling like it's so easy to do that. So that threshold, it's fascinating. It does require courage. Staying in it, feeling in it. In that time also, I went deeply into the spiritual world, understanding the meaning, understanding spirituality. So I shared with you a lot of experiences, and also while studying the science and studying the spiritual part and having my own experience and experimenting with myself and a lot of clients, because they do their own experiments in all this journey. And interesting enough, the midlife crisis. The crisis, we all think it's the crisis of the meaningfulness of human being lives, the bad part, the crisis. And, I totally agree with Carl Jung. And I want you to let it land and think about it. He said that the first half of life is the ego building outward. You gather, you achieve, you prove. You fill rooms and collect the keys, badges, diplomas, degrees, titles. But usually somewhere around 40, yes, me too, the soul starts calling inwards. And then you go inside and then you start to ask those questions. What else? What is the threshold? What else is possible? The tasks of the first half are completely different from the second half. And Richard Rohr calls this moment an identity transplant, not an upgrade. He calls it a transplant. The old organ, the old identity has to come out for the new one to take. And Jung always also calls this process of individuation, the process of alignment between the knowingness, what is right and good and expectations, and the feelings of what do you really want. And this process of alignment is this individuation. And he went through this process himself. It took him years, and he also wrote about it. And honestly, I also went through that process. And it also took me a few years. But I also, because of my experience, I put it together a program called Rebirth. So people don't have to go through that process so long. But yes, you still have to go through that process. It doesn't have to be so hard, and it can be much shorter. I've seen it, and I've done it with many of my clients within the 90 days. But yes, that's the part of this rebirth. Some of the things have to die so the others can be born. And whatever you call it, the individuation process, when you move from it, whatever you call it, the identity change or upgrade or transplant, it's terrifying because you don't change what you do. You don't change the next job. Like I've changed jobs. My longest job was probably 5 years. I change a lot, industry, job and role. And I'm grateful for that because I've experienced a lot and also understood that no matter which industry, I've switched from health, engineering, and finance, the human behind, at the level of the human, we are all the same, wearing different hats and clothes. And that's what it's not about, changing those hats and clothes. You're actually not changing what you do. You're changing who you are. So I know this because I lived it. I've experienced it. The 25 years in corporate, health, engineering, finance, consulting, innovation, transformation. I started in Poland, went to university, in the move to UK when I didn't speak a language at all, with my diploma cleaning toilets, because obviously I didn't speak a language. So I was cleaning the toilets and I worked my way to head of innovation in a Swiss bank. And then I left. And not because I failed, because I was done and I felt like I've achieved what I wanted in the corporate world. And that key opened every door in that world. No larger fit the door I needed to walk through. People say, you are crazy, you're starting from zero. It was not a zero, it was the next step. And this is something which, when you are in this space, and it doesn't mean you have to quit your job, start the company, move the countries, whatever is that. But asking yourself questions of how do you want to live your life? How and what will be your next step? What will be the next thing you want to do? What brings you joy? What is which spark that excitement? So everything I learned, every scar, every win, it came with me. It just stopped using the same key. And yes, I repeat it a lot, but it's so important. And I'm going to share exact path as well. So subscribe if you want to hear it. So even though I changed a lot of jobs and I was very familiar with different roles, from really starting from very low into the very high positions, the switch between the who you are and what you do as a role is significant. Becoming the new person is the same as not running and becoming the professional or marathoner, from employee mindset to entrepreneur. And you cannot learn that in the school. So I have done the MBA. And when I started the company, there was so many things that I was like, oh my goodness, why they don't teach that? Why they don't prepare people for running the businesses? And then it hit me, because MBA is not for running the business. It's for business administration. And most of us doing it because of the jobs we want to get them through having it. Now everyone says we don't hire people with an MBA, so I'm visually unemployable. So letting go of what got you here, it doesn't erase who you are or where you are. It honors it. And it actually makes room for what it comes next. But letting go of these titles, of the roles, and stepping in something different, something new, it's significant. It's like switching who you are as a person. And I'm not talking only about the job. As I said, from a person who doesn't run. And I know my clients as well. I've experienced and I've seen it. People changing at the age of 55, 65, when you would say like, what? So my youngest client is 20, I think 27 or 6, and the oldest 72. So that's change is possible anytime. So I had the clients who literally within the 3 months who changed not doing the sport to actually running in the 10, 15, 20 kilometers. They were able to find the jobs within a few months with a salary increase of 30%. We were able to build businesses after sitting on the business plans for years. They were able to build the businesses within the 60 days, get the clients, the programs, ready offers, and start doing it. And, when I observed that as well, and we're working with the clients and in my role in the different companies, there is one thing. One thing is the strategy, but who you are is your strategy. But what is blocking the most people, especially the educated one, especially the successful one, is to going out of the frame, going out of their own identity, going out of the label of the being seen differently, because we are so familiar with that and so attached. So that's really a big, like showing up in social media or doing things you've never done before and not being good at that, because I know you are excellent at your job. So there is so many beautiful things. And growth is not measured by how much you understand, but by what you no longer subsidize with your time, energy, and attention. So what are you still subsidizing? The meeting that drains you, the relationships you have outgrown, the version of yourself that says yes to everything, because that the version of yourself that says yes to everything what got you here. But this won't take you where you want to go. And the discomfort you feel is not a sign of something is wrong. It's a sign something is ready. So one door is closing, the other one is opening. And I always say that even into my children, some of their relationship and friendships, I have 2 teenage girls and a little boy, and we have a lot of conversations about it. And some of friends, they have to go, they have to leave so the door can open for the others. And both of them experiencing that transition. And I know you also, but we want to keep this door open and we want to just have a 1 foot there in case it won't work, we want to come back. And then we cannot really fully open the other door. So that's the threshold. If you feel that you're also standing in this threshold long enough to see it, okay, I know you. You are not going to change your life because of feeling. You need the numbers. You need the profit and loss impact, the cost. Fine, here are the numbers. And they are not really pretty. So from the strategy perspective, the business impact is that 70% of organizational transformation are failing. 70% fail, and the number one reason is not the technology, not funding, no market condition. It's literally leadership gaps. Therefore, when they dug deeper, the 63% of a transformation that improved leadership capacity also improved long-term health. Why? Because a good leadership, health leadership, and that's not only the leading other people. The leadership starts with yourself. And the first part and the core part of leadership is leading yourself and then leading others by examples. And I know you know that. We all know that. But that's the gap between knowing and doing. The subconscious mind, the programming, the everything which we are not aware. Remember, like the fish swimming in the water doesn't know it's in the water. And when leaders model the behavior of change, 5.3 times more likely to succeed. So basically, when the leaders become the change, they are likely to succeed. So of course, you hear that a lot. Become the change you want to see in the world. But hey, how many people want to really change? We want to change other people because it takes, a weight from us. Also, Often we want to change other people. And what is very interesting for me, I've been working with human beings for past 25 years. And what is very interesting that we are more likely to invest in other people's ideas than our own. And that's fascinating because we are more likely to invest in a stock exchange market. But how often do you really invest in yourself? There is a risk when you invest in yourself. And I mean here, like personal development and professional development, you need to deliver the results. And that's the scary part. So the transformation doesn't fail because the strategy was wrong. Your business doesn't fail because the strategy is wrong and because you don't know the 5-point strategy that gets you to success. It fails because the person leading it is still running the last year operating system. And I wanted to learn this. So it's the same as running your business with the mindset of employee. Picture that. You're going into work and you sit in the computer and your role in the corporate was, innovation. And then you innovate and you write the ideas, you like kind of bring them to life, but you don't go and don't sell. If you don't bring a new clients, if you don't promote, because, you're not a marketing person. If you don't have this entrepreneurial mindset, and it doesn't matter if you are in corporate or in a business, because I've seen with my clients on both sides, when you switch from the employee mindset to entrepreneur mindset, you won't be asking your bosses for a salary, but you will be looking at your bosses as a clients and you will want to deliver to them. And you will feel so much better and so much more valued when you won't be looking for the approval from other people, but you will be your own approval. And those clients, those bosses, those people, they will be your clients in other ways. I work with the senior leaders, CEOs, founders, business owners, and there is also a data, the number. 40% of a new CEOs fail within 18 months. And honestly, I was one of them, despite the very successful company I have built. So 40%. And then think about 90% of companies, new companies failed. And we say that the reason is lack of cash flow. Like the cash flow is not the reason why the company failed. The reason is that the founder, the CEO, was operating on the outdated system, was operating on the version of him that was running the previous identity, not the next one, the one he wanted to. And those CEOs, those companies fail not because they are not smart, but because they borrowed the old playbook. They brought the old identity into the new game. And those things won't work anymore. And for example, Spencer Stewart tracks CEO performance over time. And they call it complacency trap. A CEO arrives, makes early improvements, things stabilize. Therefore, the CEO thinks it's working. Don't touch. But actually, performance plateau. Stagnation sets, the same habits that created early wins become the ceiling. So the CEOs should change after 9.5 years. Now, normally it's around 4 years when they change, the same as the presidents in different countries, because after that they stop evolving. So this is probably a reason why I stayed the longest in 5 years in my job. And that was my last job. The previous one was between 2 and 3, because that's exactly the thing. You stop evolving, you stop growing. If you are a founder, this one hits you a little bit different. The skills that help you start your company are not the skill that will scale the company. And I know that it sounds counterproductive, because you think that when you started the company, you are entrepreneur and then you can scale a company. It's the same when I work with my clients, and we always talk about it. if you are an excellent manager or director or leader, it won't make you excellent CEO with the same operating system. And I always ask, start to think like a CEO. Like I always speak this to my clients, and I often hear from people like, hey, I'm not the CEO. Of course, you don't have to be the CEO to think like the CEO. So you can always ask yourself a question, how would the CEO think? But even though I challenge you here, because the CEO is, you are the CEO of your life. You are the CEO of your sphere, your responsibility. So act like a CEO. Act like the person that can make decisions within the sphere of responsibilities. And your life would really change. So when you are a founder also, that's very challenging because you are the person who does everything, decides everything, know everything. And that's not a leadership at stage 2, that's a bottleneck. And here is what nobody tells you. When a buyer looks at your company, your involvement is not an asset. It's actually the risk. Because the business who cannot function without the founder, it's not scalable. It's not a business that people want to invest in. So on one side, we are so much attached into we do everything. It's our business. We know it best. But on the other side, that's also a bottleneck. So also you cannot outgrow your business. So basically your business only grows as much as you do. And this is something most of the founders is aware and still not investing in themselves. But I've seen a lot of them going and investing and growing because they know that they are their own bottleneck. I also talk about the differences because I think it's important we see. In the corporate world, I see this often as a less prominent because the life of the founder depends on hunting the money to survive the company. The life of a corporate warrior depends on different aspects than the money because the survival money is coming, the salary is coming. So the mindset here is different. But trust me, at the human level, we are very similar. We just forgotten some of the things. And that's also a reminder to ask yourself the question, when did I stop to be hungry? When did I stop and settle and created my golden cage? I did that. So your company will grow as far as you will grow. And in corporate, often I see that people are not aware as much because the structure is different. It's not so obvious that, when you stop working, there is no fuel for you. There is no money coming. They still come, even if you're sick or you on leave or whatever, they're still coming. So the hunger is different. Yeah, there are the little bit different mechanisms. Very interesting though. Very interesting because it's great to know the different mindsets because it's not even the roles, it's the mindset. So we all want more. We all want to go for what is possible and win more. And also at the same time, we limit ourselves into closing ourselves in the golden cage. So less people from corporate world invest in the personal development and more in the professional development because this is the career path. While in the entrepreneurship and conscious founders, I see this a lot of more. And I will encourage here every single leader to invest in themselves. Like invest in yourself and grow as a person, grow as a leader, not because you are not good enough or you have to fix yourself or change yourself. No, because you want to see what else is possible. You even don't want to grow. It's you want to live the life and experience fully. I was very inspired by the book called 4 Hours Work Week. And I wanted to, at some point, to live the life like that. But when I quit my corporate job, I already work in my corporate job, lots of hours, long hours. And I even work twice as much. And I've forgotten about it, why I've started my business in the first place. A question now. How long does this actually take? Because I know you are thinking, great, another 5 years journey. And it's not what you expect. Herminia Ibarra, formerly in SEAD, she studied career transition for decades. She also said that first figure it out who you want to be, then act. So here is the strategy. The transition, you cannot think that into your reality, into your way. The researcher from inside university, she also says that knowing is the result of doing and experimenting, not an introspection. Introspection, it's great, and you experiment within the introspection. So for example, if you think like, what did I like doing when I was small? Like my favorite thing was a shop. I love to play the shop, and I love to have my own business, like to sell and buy. It was so fascinating for me. And I always wanted to be a business doctor, to be able also to turn around businesses and business leaders. And that was fascinating. It's actually fascinating that I'm doing it right now. But you cannot, like, I didn't know everything what I know back then. And now I can actually give a meaning. And when I look into it and go into running the real business, then I can see and experiment with that if this is the right thing and if I really like it. And I cannot think the way into the next identity. You have to act your way into it, test it, try it on. Like even like clothes you wear, you try. If you like them, they fit you. So you have to test it. You have to try it. Like often people think that their job is completely the one they're gonna have it for 50 years, or 20 years. And when you look for a job, you feel like you cannot even, find a different after. And the same when you start a company, you cannot change the direction in the company. The major career transition takes 3 to 5 years. And for experienced professional, 5 to 7. Therefore, if you have been feeling stuck for 6 months and you are beating yourself up, stop. You are not behind. You are at the beginning of the process that's supposed to take years. That individuation process, that second life chance, as Jung call it. But as from my experience and my clients' experience, I have seen this can be shortened. It's kind of like quantum jump. When you experiment, when you connect the introspection with experimentation, and it's a progressive process, it can go down from years to months. Yes, I know you heard it well. Like, why would you go through that years if you can go through months? Like, why would you suffer more than it needed? And why would you suffer at all? It's not the suffering. I call it more removing different layers. So the question is not what should I do? The question is, who must I become? The real cost of not changing, let me put this in terms of your profit and loss to understand. If 70% of transformation fail because leaders don't evolve, what is the cost of you not evolving? What is the cost of your company not evolving into the next level? How many good people have you lost because you're still leading the way you have been leading 5 years? Or how many clients you have lost because you haven't changed the way how you run the business? How many opportunities your company missed because you are the bottleneck? How many strategies died on the whiteboard because the person who needs to execute them is running an old operating system? And I can tell you, I totally get it and I understand it. I am the person who was running the strategies on the board, had the beautiful plans, and my operating system from corporate level, corporate executive, was not matching the execution of every single strategy. And I also can tell you that people who write the strategy, if they will be the same people who execute the strategy would look completely different. And I think this is the gap as well. Like, we are all human beings and the strategies need to be executed. And the best way to execution is to experimenting with it in a small pieces. Because no matter how beautiful is your strategy, on the board, on the slides. Like, I don't do slides anymore. I'm like, it's, my slides can be in 1 or 2 sentences, but the execution of it, that's the key. And what is stopping you from executing is not that you are not good enough or not smart. It's the programming you have been installed, the identity, the golden cage you created for yourself. And yeah, I know it may sound a little bit harsh sometimes, but I'm being honest. That's what the business doctor does. I don't tell you to tell you off or feel bad, because it's not about that. It's more about seeing where you are right now and being open what comes next. And I tell you also what the data says. Those are the research data and also my own experience. And I'm here being also very vulnerable to you to tell you I know what it means. Great strategy on the board, no execution. And I've seen that in the corporate world, but I also experienced on my own business why that strategy was not executed. And it's nothing to do with the quality of the strategy. It's so easy to set up a strategy. It's so easy to come up with the new ideas. But the people who execute that, they cannot operate from the same programming. The biggest risk to your company future is the version of you that refuses to change. Remember what I said at the beginning, that by minute 27, I'd ask you to do something that may scare you. We are there. But first, let me set it up properly, because this isn't the homework, is a diagnosis. It's the experiment. It's something that will literally change your life. So do for the 7 day, the key audit, okay? Simple, powerful, and it will show you something you cannot unsee. This key represents the behavior, the habit, the belief, the programming, the identity that got you here. This week, you are going to figure out which key still opens the door and which one you are carrying out of superstition. Day 1, 2, the inventory. Get a piece of paper, draw 2 columns. Left one, it's your keys. The patterns, belief, thoughts, the things you do, and the right side, what door this open. List the 5 behaviors, habits, or beliefs you think made you successful. And I can give you an example. One of the things made me successful was my boldness, going for the new thing, taking a risk, really open and positive attitude despite of all the obstacles. But at the same time, when I got into my dream, and I got into my 6-figure job, a good job, I really liked it. That created a golden cage that even those behaviors were not me anymore. The behaviors, like, they was not me. I was more settled on what I've achieved. And letting go, in my opinion, on my thoughts of all of it, it was a challenge. So the non-negotiables, also the things you defend if someone challenged them. So your early mornings. I tell you, for years, I was waking up early. It was probably 5 o'clock. And I was dressing quickly, preparing and going on the train. And I was always catching the first train for the last few years of my corporate work. And if anyone challenged me, I will be like, no, I have to be at work, and I have to finish early. But I also know many of my clients will say, I'm not the early person, because now I would say, okay, wake up 2 hours earlier or 1 hour earlier. No, I'm not the early person because I go late to bed. So I want you to find what are the decisions you're making, what are the always rules, and whatever they are, write them down. Then honestly write what door each one is opening right now. Not 5 years ago, but now. Then you have a day 3 and 4. And I want you to do the Goldsmith test. For each key on your list, ask the question, did I succeed because of this or in spite of it? Now is the scary part. Call one person you trust, someone who tells you the truth. Show them your list and say, which of those actually helps me and which I am carrying out of habit. So it could be, you're going late to bed because you feel like you want to have your time between the kids, or you're going early to work, like I was as well, going early to work, and that actually thinking that, oh, this took me where I want to be in my career when I wanted to be. Then on the day 5 and 6, choose one keys, one behavior that you suspect is no longer opening the door. So for example, for me was also the resilience. I thought that actually the resilience took me where I am. And yes, it was. But now when I run my own business, and we so glorify the resilience, and I tell you why I'm more skeptical about calling it as a resilience. Of course, it is kind of a resilience, but the resilience is fighting against all the odds. And when I talk about moving towards this more of a joyful, meaningful path, if you go and push your business in, and I would do the resilience way all the time, I will get burnout. And I did as well. So I've done that, been there. So stay with me. And I want you to hear and feel that the resilience part, it doesn't have to be painful. If you start to be more of the playful, if you start to treat the work as a play that pays, if you start to experiment and be curious, that's the thing. So the difference between me being a resilience, this doesn't serve me anymore, towards being more of curious, experimenting, being okay if my experiments don't work, and move forward with that. So that's the really key element. Or, for example, you answer every email. You are available for everyone. Your calendar is open. Oh, I've done that as well. I'm guilty. My calendar is open and I'm going to coach all my team members, and so on and so on. Because I thought that that's the key. No, that's not a key. Okay, so it doesn't serve me anymore. Things like I never ask for help. I can do it myself. Build opposite of that. Challenge it. It takes you a little bit of time to do this process, but I want you to feel it. This is a piece of an introspection, but it's also of experimenting. And do it by hand. There is a neuroscience and the magic behind writing. Behind handwriting activates different brain regions and forces a slower processing. So when you do it by hand, basically, you actually doing it with your heart rather than just typing on the computer. So question 1, what door I am standing in front of it right now? The one which I haven't walked in. The door of what is the next? Question 2, what key I'm holding that doesn't fit this new door? Question 3, who must I become to walk through it? And that's your experiment. Go for it, play with it 7 days. I also will write more details in the description so you can read it. One piece of paper, one honest conversation, and one key you put down. And 3 questions, answer by hand. You know what's beautiful about the key? That key. It doesn't stop being a key when it no longer fits a lock. It becomes something else. It's a symbol of you, what you've built it through your life, what you survive, what you outgrow. And Alvin Toffler wrote about this decades ago. He called it future shock, the disorientation when the world changes faster than human can adapt. He diagnosed the problem, and for years I have been working on the cure. Because and right now, even I'm doing doctorate to bring it into the next level, because this isn't just about your mindset. It's about your operating system. It's about who you are. It's about your identity. And you cannot run the future identity with the outdated system. The invisible code running your decision, your leadership, your relationship, your life. You don't need a better strategy. You need a better operating system. And that upgrade doesn't start with the new plan. It starts with the courage to question the old one. It starts with the move from me, just you, me, my ambitions, my identity, to we, community, ecosystem. The understanding that the next level is something that isn't you claim alone. It's I haven't just studied human. I have been the experiment. I have been living through different stages and different parts of my life. And I'm learning, I'm experimenting. And I also often call this the evidence-based strategy. Why? Because everything what you're going through your life, it gives you the information. It gives you some ideas for what works. What is your next step? And often we want to think the way into our next step. And we got frustrated that it doesn't work. We don't know. So what got you here was real. It mattered. It shaped you. But it is not what gets you there. So the next door is waiting for you. And the key, you already have it. You just haven't made it yet. So it is inside you. And let's make it. Like, start making it. Start experimenting. Stop juggling the old lock and start building and creating the new key. So that's a beautiful podcast. And I want you to listen to it like, you're just doing something and then you take a piece of paper, like let it run. The right things will land on it. And share with the people who are in the same space and they want to get out of that threshold, or they feel bad because they are in it. They're successful and they've achieved already a lot. And yeah, they are somewhere in this outgrown my own space, what it's next, where science meets spirit and the strategy, or tunes into the strategy. And I'm going to see you next week on the next podcast, which bring you some insights, some ideas. But the most important, it will create a real change in the way how you think, who you are, and who you want to become. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe and share.